Well, monarchies have always captured the hearts and minds of many across the world, and few royal houses have more fans than the UK's. Now, for more on the family's significance and their relevance, I'm joined in studio by Julie Taddeo, Associate Research Professor of History at the University of Maryland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, with a new royal baby here, I'm sure gift shops around the world are just chomping at the bit with all the merchandise and the pomp that all comes with it. But how much money does interest in Britain's royal family tend to generate?
Well, just tourism alone, supposedly about $2 billion a year. But if I had to get a firm number, I think it's almost impossible to calculate. I was thinking about that today. For instance, when one of the women wear a dress that everyone likes, and somebody copies it, and then the dress sells out. I mean, that, or a hairdo, and then all the hairstylists who make money off of that. So I think we're talking billions here.
Certainly with all the peripheral businesses that come from it.
So some things that we're not even considering. But in terms of tourism, technically about $2 billion a year, people going because of the royal family and interest in that.
And a lot of people are wondering, how does the monarchy actually make their money?
I know that there's a lot of criticism that they're living off of the taxpayers. If you break it down, it's about 69 pence per taxpayer, okay? But that then comes to millions and millions of dollars. So the Queen, for instance, has several sources of income. She gets what is like a royal allowance from what's called the sovereign grant. And this is revenue that's generated from properties. Substantial amount of properties, mostly in London. Some of it's farmed acreage, though, commercial and residential buildings. And then, so the Treasury holds that, and she gets her allowance from that. It's not a personal allowance, though. This is money that she has to use to pay her staff, for maintenance of Buckingham Palace, for security. So last year, for instance, she gets 15% of that revenue. That was $82 million, not pounds, I think. I've seen different figures. I've seen anywhere from 42 to 82 million. Then she has her private income. She is a very substantial property owner. I mean, she has a ton of properties. And so she pays her personal expenses from that, and she also pays the expenses of her, her children from her personal income. So it's mostly property, but she also has a very valuable stamp collection, an art collection, race horses. Balmoral Castle itself is valued at $140 million.
So certainly very diversified.
It is diverse. The bulk of it is property.
Now, obviously, when you have something like a major event like a wedding, a lot of people are wondering, is this all on the backs of taxpayers? Break that down for us.
It is mostly the security costs that taxpayers are paying for. But then the reverse of that is, but look at how much revenue it's generating in terms of tourism. So in terms of hotels, all of the souvenir shops, food, restaurants, I mean, there is money generated from that. So I think you have to look at it from both ways. And then you can't put a price on people's affection, I think, for that. But there are criticisms when it's times of austerity and a big royal event happens. The royal family sometimes has to be careful. Like, how big of a celebration should it be?
Because a lot of people were wondering when the Queen was giving her speech, there was all this sort of controversy over the gold piano in the background. Meanwhile, you have Brexit, you have people wondering about their livelihoods. Talk a little bit about the relationship between the monarchy and the government.
Well, first of all, though, then the defense was, well, what room would she be in that didn't have something that was gold? I mean, where do they want her to stand? It's Buckingham Palace. And also, a lot of that money that she's getting from the sovereign grant, she got an increase of 10% because that's going to go to refurbish Buckingham Palace, but that in turn generates income through tourism. I mean, when you went to London, didn't you go to Buckingham Palace? I did.
I'm slightly biased being born and raised there. But,
all right.
But a lot of people do wonder, in terms of the sort of influence that the royal family has, because different royal families around the world have different influence.
Okay.
Talk about the influence that the British royal family has on the government.
Well, it's not just influence. She still has power. I know we tend to think that it's just ceremonial functions that she performs. She has certain rights and powers. She chooses not to exercise some of them. For instance, suspending Parliament. No, she's not going to do that. It wouldn't look good either. But she is the head of the Church of England. She's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. She has the right to royal pardons. She can bestow certain titles, to peers and honorary titles. and she opens Parliament, and it's a ceremony that is rooted in tradition. Could Parliament open without her and all of that tradition? Probably. Does anyone want that to happen? I don't think so. So she does have a political function as well as a social and ceremonial one.
So important to take a look at both. Good to have you. Thank you for joining us, Julie Taddeo, Associate Research Professor of History at the University of Maryland.